G'day, ZiggyD here with part 9 of my Path of Exile open beta Blood Magic Bow Duellist playthrough. Yep, that always it's always a bit of a mouthful. I've just finished clearing through the river crossings map. I didn't really want to show that. It's just pretty much point A to point B, just the human bandit creatures that chase you after you and a few monkeys. Nothing really too special to be stressed about, so just head through there. Ignore the overgrown roots for now, that's for a later quest. So now we're going to be heading into the Dark Forest, and I'm also going to be ignoring the side quest in there and heading straight through into the sort of the western forest zone there, because we're going to do the side quest in there first up. Alright, so while I clear through the Dark Forest zone, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple as well. There is some spiders and things like that in here, but mostly it's melee and a few archers. Nothing really to be too stressed about. So while I'm clearing through here, I'll just talk a bit about my build and things like that, because I'm starting to get to the point now where I've got a few episodes up. I've got something like 4 or 5 episodes up now at the point of recording this. So I'm starting to able to get to the point where I can actually talk about some of the questions that have been raised through the comments section of each of those videos. So there's a few things that get asked by different people over again, and some interesting questions about the potential for this build. Here's the waypoint for this zone, and we're getting Tyrannus's build has been stealth buffed. There you go, Tyrannus, good stuff. So yeah, make sure you grab that waypoint, because we will be coming back here for a side quest. These guys do a little bit of chaos damage, so if you're a bit low on the health side of things and relying on energy shield, just be extra careful of those, and if you have any minions or anything to distract those with, that's pretty good. You can sort of avoid their shots if you just keep running. So the first thing I wanted to cover was the passive build for this, which is linked in the description below. I've made it a bit clearer, but there was a note linked to that basically the passive build is set up as a Marauder starting point. Now, that might be a little bit confusing because I'm playing a Duelist, but the fact is, for this build, it's possible to play it from either a Marauder or a Duelist starting point. It's essentially the same build, and in fact, you can probably do it from a Marauder starting point and have it be a little easier in the early game if you already have the gear sort of set aside. So that's the main reason we're starting as a Duelist, is because the Duelist simply gets access to all of the skills that we actually need to make this build work. However, the Marauder gets access to none of those skills. The Marauder doesn't get any bow skills. So if you're playing this, if you want to play sort of like a Blood Magic Bow user and already have a nice stash of skills and pretty much have all the skills you think you'll need, then you're more than welcome to start from the Marauder starting zone, and it might even be recommended simply because you get a lot of health earlier on and you can avoid some early deaths like I had. But if it is sort of an early playthrough for you and you don't have all the skills you need, then the Duelist is a good starting point for that. So it's sort of a dual-tailed starting point there. So here's the Weaver's Chambers. I'm not going to head into there because it's actually a very dangerous zone, and I think there's a lot of potential for my death in there. I know I'm like not technically in hardcore, but I'm still going to continue on playing pretend hardcore mode, basically acting like I would be if I was playing hardcore, because the distinction's kind of arbitrary, really. So yeah, so I'll be coming back to that point, but we've gotten the waypoint, so we can easily come back to this point and do that quest a little bit later once we're a little more leveled and have a bit better gear. There's a few things that I sort of am waiting for in terms of gear. Oh, I can equip that beastly potion now. That's good stuff. Let's just throw that out. I don't need that potion. And waiting another level for that. What about this one here? Here we go. There's another Greater Life Flask. Maybe we'll try and roll this. I've got plenty of transmutations. Reduced amount recovered, increased recovery speed, 50% instantly. That's a good panic one. 150 health, still about half of a health, so let's go ahead and put that on. I think the W slot there would be best for me. Alright, so since I've just gotten a level, I'm about to spend some passive skill points. I'll take you guys through one of my responses basically to a question that was asked on the most recent video I uploaded. Someone was basically asking, how does this build scale with damage? Where does it get its damage from? Because looking at the passive skill tree that I have planned out in the description, it does look like there's really not much damage focus in this build, and that is actually the case. The passive skill tree for this build is almost exclusively focused on defense and blood magic. But this doesn't mean the build's going to have limited damage potential, and I'll sort of explain why. So firstly, the passive skill tree does have a couple of damage things. I've got Lava Lash, I'm getting Iron Grip there for the extra physical damage, because I'll have about 300 strength, so that'll give an extra maybe 80 or something % physical damage, so a little bit of a buff up there. And we eventually end up grabbing from the Templars point of the tree, I believe we get Catalyze on these elemental damage nodes here. That's sort of towards the end game though, so really not that much. Most of it's focused on life and defense and things like that. So here's the thing with Path of Exile. There's 3 ways that you can get damage into your build. There's the passive tree. You can pick up a bunch of passive nodes that give you damage. You can get it through gear, so having weapons with high stats on them and trying to focus on as much damage stats as possible in your gear. And then through the actual skills. So what a Blood Magic build allows us to do is really focus hardcore on the damage for skills, while the passive tree is also simultaneously giving us a lot of defense. So that's sort of the good thing about Blood Magic, is it has this duality of purpose there, where you're also allowing yourself to get more damage through your skills, while also having a really good defensive base, since you're going to have a lot of life anyway. So the way the whole thing with skills work and how skills can give you damage is, as you level skills and add supports to them, they increase in cost, they increase in mana cost. And if you have a limited amount of mana, like we do now, you really can't level them very far, and you can't equip many supports to those skills. So your damage output is limited to your passive damage increases and your gear damage increases. However, if we instead focus on Blood Magic, then we can have like 3,000 to 5,000 HP, of which we can use tons of that for mana. So a spell that costs over 100 mana is very expensive in terms of mana costs. Like that's unless you're stacking like Eldritch Battery, which is another option. That's a very expensive skill. However, for a Blood Magic user, that's nothing. Like, you can regen more HP than that in a second, so you can spam that skill with extremely high mana cost as much as you want. That means you can get extremely damaging, well-supported skills with lots of support gems and leveled to the max, and still be able to cast it infinitely. So that's the end game goal for this build. Now, this build is definitely going to not put out too much damage until we get Blood Magic. For that reason, I mentioned earlier that I'm going to have to stop leveling some of my skills until I get Blood Magic, because I won't be able to support the mana costs. But once we get Blood Magic, our damage potential is basically going to be exponential. It's going to go through the roof. So I hope that gives you guys a bit more of a better idea of how this build works in terms of damage scaling. Okay, so we just found a Surge and Sapphire Flask. Now, Sapphire Flasks are good if you need emergency elemental resistances, like if you're going to fight Merveil, then a Sapphire Flask could be good. There's one for each of these. Now, and I believe there's also a Chaos Resist Flask that does the same thing for Chaos Resistances. Now, this one also rolled Surgeons as one of the prefix on this magical flask here. The important thing to note about that is those will trade for alchemy shards to the vendor. So if you sell this to a vendor, it'll give you like 1 or 2 alchemy shards or something like that. So if you that's the reason alone to pick up magic flasks, even if you don't think you need them, because trading for those alchemy orbs is a good way to eventually build up a few alchemy orbs. So although this has rolled Surgeons, I might not sell it because a Sapphire Flask could come in handy a little bit later on. Alright, so I'm in the Western Forest now, and I have 2 goals in here for now. There's 3 potential things that you can do in here, but I'm only going to be doing 2 of those for now. So the first one is to grab the waypoint next to the little Bandits quest area there, which should be off to one of the sides somewhere, so we want to try and do that first. And then the second goal for us is to head to the end of the road and basically unlock the gate thing that was put up in Act 1, so that connects Act 1 and Act 2 together. And after we do that, we can head back to Act 1 and get a quest reward, which I believe is a passive skill point, so it's definitely something worth doing. So we'll do that now, and I'll sort of judge whether we can do the Bandit quest, the Bandit side quest in here now, or whether we should come back and do that later. So in terms of mobs in this area, you have pretty much all of the same creatures. However, you have also these exploding zealots, these basically the purple ones that chase after you. So these guys here, they're exactly like the exploding squids. They will do a lot of damage if they happen to surround you when they do explode. So you can sort of set them off just by touching them briefly and then just running away, making sure you keep moving. Now the thing about these is you get experience whether you kill them or whether they explode. So you get experience if they kill themselves just as much as you killing them. So you don't need to kill them yourself. And in fact, this means that people who are having trouble farming quickly in Fell Shrine Ruins will actually come here and just run through the zone and set off all of these exploding minions, these exploding mobs here, just to rack up experience that way. So that's just an interesting sort of insight there, just the way some people level in this zone in higher difficulties and things like that. Of course, it is risky if you don't feel like you can outrun them. Quicksilver Flasks are pretty good for this. As you can see, I've rounded up quite a herd of mobs here, so I just have to make sure I don't get surrounded, and I'll just slowly keep working them down. I think our Poison Arrow might be the best for working these guys down. This is kind of fun. I'm getting a lot of frame rate lag though, just from all the effects and all the mobs at once. So hopefully I can get a new computer soon. Once I move into my house, that'll be the first thing I look into getting set up, because that also might allow me to start streaming. And I'm pretty keen to do that. I've had quite a few people request for me to start streaming now, and it's definitely something I want to start doing. Just YouTube. The thing I love about YouTube is how much I can interact with people, but streaming sort of takes that to a new level since I can do it in real time. So yeah, definitely something I'm keen to try out. This guy's shooting me with poison arrows as well. Looks like I've slowly chipped away at the group there, just doing it nice and safely, not rushing. Alright, so I just found another Greater Life Flask, pretty much the last one that I needed, and rolled it with another transmutation, and I managed to get immunity to curses during fast effect and removes curse on use. That's a fantastic flask to have. Better in the later game, but still handy to have now, so it's good to always have at least one curse immunity flask on your belt. So I'll go ahead and chuck that in now, and I'm pretty well sorted for flask now. I do need to get a better mana flask. Actually, my mana isn't that high, so I can probably just stick with this one, so I might just roll, see what I can get on this. Increased charge recovery is quite good, so we'll stick with that. It just means we can use it a bit more often. And I still have that Quicksilver with Dispels Frozen and Chilled. Maybe I can roll a better mod on this one. Let's try it out. Additional elemental resistances, not so useful for a Quicksilver Flask. We really want charge recovery. Additional elemental resistances, extra charges. Yeah, that's okay. Let's stick with that for now. So our flasks are in much better shape now. I mentioned I think at the end of the last episode that I wanted to start getting those flasks sorted, so I'm feeling a bit more comfortable now. Still have a fair bit of work to do on the rest of my gearing situation though. Still using a few pretty ordinary magic items and things like that. I really need a better weapon too. Alright, so it looks like we're to the end of the road now, so this is the side quest. This just means we'll have to go back and find the waypoint as well. Now these guys they look pretty fancy, but they're essentially just harder to kill, higher damaging versions of the bandits, so just the same thing, just guide them and work them down slowly. Alright, so for this quest, just hit the artifact there, and that opens that, and we'll go back to Act 1 after we find this waypoint. We can actually go there from the waypoint. Okay, so we've found where the bandit quest is, and therefore the waypoint. Now, I'm still, still 2 levels below this zone, so I don't think the bandit's really safe to take on yet, and it's something that's so easy to do. This is a fairly easy fight compared to some of the other, compared to like Oak, for example, but I really don't lose much from coming back here later. Like the waypoint's right next to the entrance, so we can go back to, oh, we don't even need to go to the forest encampment, we're actually going to go to Act 1. Oh well, wasted a little bit done. Alright, so we'll grab that quest reward of Bestial here, and there's the passive reward, and we'll spend that on getting Blood Drinker. Yeah, cool. Actually a notable passive. I hate traveling through the just the plain strength or dex or int nodes. It feels so unrewarding, but once you finally get to one of those good nodes, it's good stuff. So I'll cut this episode off here. I'll see you guys in the next episode, and we'll start taking on some of those side quests in Act 2, and then we'll continue on with the main quest line in there. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.